Okay, guys, let's talk about body language and stare down of Rafael dos Anjos versus Paul Felder. It is really interesting. You can really tell a lot from a stare down, and we're gonna discuss who's gonna win, what they did right or what they did wrong during this stare down. And let's start right now. So the first one who comes out is Rafael dos Anjos, and his posture is very confident. His pelvis, I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it, like his shoulders are a little bit back, and he just looks so confident. He shakes Dana White's hand, and he's not super dominant here because their hands are even. If one hand is on top, that is a sign of dominance. Like if you put your hand on top of someone's hand and someone's hand is at the bottom, that's you basically showing dominance. So their hands look very even, but then look, he taps on his back, and that's basically an expression of dominance. If someone taps someone on the back and he's the last one to tap the other person, then this person is exerting dominance, is trying to show his dominance. Like for example, when politicians, let's say they meet each other and then they have to go into some sort of room, or they have to enter some sort of building, the person who comes in last and who taps the other person on the back is basically showing dominance. And that's what Rafael dos Anjos is doing here. Obviously he's not fighting Dana White, right, but he is basically trying to show himself and maybe everyone that he is it's my house. That's what he's trying to show everyone, that he feels confident on this platform or whatever it is, and that basically this is his house. Yeah, okay, then Paul Felder comes in. He is very dominantly shaking Dana White's hand, and now they're shaking each other hand, and it basically looks very even. No one looks more dominant than the other person. Look, right now Rafael dos Anjos did this move with his shoulders, which is basically him showing that he feels like confident here and he is ready to fight. He once again, that's like an expression of dominance. I don't honestly know how to say it, but just intuitively, he is trying to express that he is ready to fight. He feels I guess peaceful in a way, like he feels calm, but at the same time he's ready to fight. And what's one important thing here is when you're analyzing anyone's body language, what's important is a baseline behavior. So for example, if you have like a family member, right, you are going to be so much better at analyzing his or her behavior of your family member than any body language expert. Why? Because you know baseline behavior so much that any sort of deviation is a huge sign for you, and you can catch it easily, right? And and I've watched some of their other stare downs, and I saw that basically for Rafael dos Anjos, this type of behavior that he is showing here is basically his baseline behavior. He's usually like that, and so I don't see any sort of deviation. I don't see the nervousness. It seems pretty cool for him. Paul Felder is usually more aggressive during the stare down. He's not as aggressive here, but now is gonna happen the most interesting part. They are staring each other in the eyes. I don't see anything that would like surprise. It's not like nothing out of ordinary happened. It's a good stare down, both of them. It seems like they're looking each other in the eyes, but sometimes they are looking right here just to avoid eyes, because it looks intimidating. Look, right now they're once again shaking their hands. It looks like Paul Felder is going to shake his hand like dominantly, like from the top, but look what Rafael dos Anjos is doing. He like pushes the dude's hand closer to him, and for some weird reason Paul Felder like bends, or I don't know how to call it, like as if Rafael dos Anjos is the is like Queen Elizabeth, right? That was weird. And then on top of him, pulling him his way, right? He bends, and then on top of that, he also taps on his hand once again. So he is really exerting, showing a lot of dominance here. After their handshake, interestingly, look, after their handshake, Rafael dos Anjos didn't look him in the eyes, which I don't know if that even means anything. Paul Felder just goes straight away, and that to me seemed weird. I thought that maybe that's a sign that Paul Felder is maybe a little bit scared of Rafael dos Anjos, but I'd look at his other stare downs, and it seemed to me like oh, Faceoff. It's called the Faceoffs. I'm sorry, it's not called stare down. It's called Faceoffs. Yeah, so he walked away very quickly after that, but I looked at his other face-offs, and it seemed like he's always leaving pretty quickly, so it's not really anything that is extraordinary. One important thing that I want to say before I say who do I think is gonna win, one important thing is that when analyzing this sort of face-offs, it's honestly really hard to make any sort of judgment, especially if you're not watching this or that sort of sport very closely. And there are several reasons why. First one is because most of these dudes are prepared that this is gonna happen, and you can literally, there are so many psychological tips and tricks that you can do, and a lot of fighters have this sort of persona when they're going to this face-off or stare downs, I'm not sure how to call them, right? They put on their persona, right? And when you're not getting punches, when you're not punched in your face, it's so easy to just put on this sort of persona that you have that is not scared and really live not as your true self. And sometimes they're able to hide, like fighters are able to hide their fears just behind this sort of persona. So really, honestly, truly, you can't say too much about this sort of face-off. You can't really judge the outcome of by looking at this face-off. But when you know someone very closely, or when you saw someone fighting so many times, you can basically see when the behavior is extraordinary. Like, for example, Conor McGregor once again against Khabib. I feel like I'm like a Khabib biographer. I should write his autobiography, right? Because I'm talking about Khabib so much. But this famous fight of Khabib against McGregor, you could really tell that McGregor's behavior at the face-off, at the press conference, was out of ordinary, right? It's not the way he usually behaves, even though he has this persona that is not really him, because he really needs to put the show for people. But you could tell, right? You could tell because we saw Conor so many times that it feels like he is our family member, even though I'm not really watching UFC fights, but now I'm gonna have to, because I'm analyzing the psychological part of it, so I really need to kind of dive really deeper into it. But yeah, here I didn't see anything extraordinary. One important thing is that what's his name? Paul Felder did have to lose a lot of weight in a very short period of time. I believe it was, what was it? It was like, wait, 20 pounds. Like 20 pounds in 5 days. Wow, I mean, that is a lot. Or maybe 18 pounds. So that could be a little bit stressful. But at the same time, he's like ranked number 7. I'm not really sure. And as far as I understand, Rafael dos Anjos is the dude who was at the different weight category, and he came back to this weight category. So it sounds really messy, and it sounds like Paul Felder didn't really have time to prepare. But at the same time, this UFC fights, they're in an MMA world, the UFC world, one interesting thing is that it could literally, everything could change in 1 second, because one missed shot could change everything. So it's really hard to forecast really any sort of outcome if opponents are are on a similar level, I guess. And I've listened to Makhachev interview actually, and I liked what he said. He said that it is possible in this type of sport, it is possible to literally lose to anyone. And I feel like it applies to all sports, but especially MMA and the UFC, martial arts, because literally in this type of sport, if you lose focus on like not even 2 seconds, like half a second, if you lose your focus, boom, you're out. And that's I don't know if that's fortunate or unfortunate, but it definitely keeps the tension. It's definitely maybe why people love this sport. So it's very, very, very psychologically loaded, because it's so intense and so much happens in a very short period of time. I'm sorry. Anyway, please comment down below what do you think. And thank you so much for watching. Go to my channel, subscribe to my channel, watch my other videos, and comment what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys.